Muhammadu Buhari said on Wednesday that England's King Charles III asked him if he had a home in London and that he triumphantly declared that he didn't. Buhari then embarked on his boringly familiar, sanctimonious self-congratulations about his modesty and frugality. Even in Nigeria, the only houses I have here are those I had before I got into office, Buhari said. I am not very much interested in having assets all over the place. I feel much more freer when I have nothing. But King Charles obviously wasn't interested in Buhari's possessions or lack therefore. He apparently asked if Buhari had a home in London because of the number of days Buhari spends in London while pretending to be president of Nigeria. If Buhari, whether if the way he answered that question, if that is the kind of president we have, you can understand his level of IQ. You can understand the level of his reasoning, and that is the kind of person that is leading Nigeria. If that is the way he understands it, and meanwhile, maybe because he's trying to change the narrative, but he doesn't know that Nigerians are not like that. Of course, when you see Buhari, I beg, the thing is just is aching. When you look at that man, do you think that is the kind of person that's supposed to be a president in the first place? See his level of IQ is just something else. Hmm. Well, Nigerians like to tag Buhari as a medical tourist, but tourists are infrequent and temporary visitors. King Charles' question to Buhari suggests that he thinks Buhari is now more than a London tourist, than he is now almost a London resident. Since most residents have homes, King Charles wondered if Buhari had one in London, especially because he is supposed to be the president of a sovereign country that's supposed to have everything it will take to keep him in that place or and to get services in that country, a sovereign country. It is not often that presidents of countries spend as much time outside the countries. They rule as Buhari does. The man who is in the 1980s told us to cherish Nigeria because it is the only country we have, unfailingly goes to the London for his medical care, where Nigeria's health sector rots away. Hmm. As of August last year, Buhari had spent more than 200 days in London on medical trips since becoming president in 2015. The tally has increased since then. King Charles knows this. This was why he wondered if Buhari had a home in London. In other words, King Charles was only stylishly telling Buhari that London was practically his second home and calling attention to how irresponsible it was for the president of a supposedly sovereign country to spend as much time in London as Buhari does. But Buhari thought it was an opportunity for his favorite stick, self-aggrandizing and self-righteous exhibitionism. This Farouk, what all this is talk. I don't even understand that. Exhibitionism, and a sneaky dig at people who are prosperous, which his supporters used to mistake as his identification with everyday struggling folks. Buhari's personal philosophy, which essentially revolves around false claims of frugality and righteousness and a corresponding envy for people he perceives as affluent, encapsulated in the claim that he feels much more freer than when I have nothing, is probably responsible for Nigeria's downward spiral into the abyss of extreme poverty on his watch. Buhari derives joy from seeing people with rights in abject poverty and deprivation. He hates to see opulence, even if it is legitimately acquired in others. That is why there's an old joke among people close to Buhari that the best way to remain in his good grace is to feign poverty, even if you are wealthy. Really, he once fired a personal aide because the aide wore an expensive wristwatch. Buhari's unease with seeing affluence in others is almost congenital. In my January 8th, 2022 column titled Buhari should give no more interviews, I talked about this. I wrote Buhari has always been like that. His nickname as a youngster in Daura was Mugu, meaning Dalinti the sadist. In Hausa land, people habitually say the Saurananki Buhari Yagama Rakade iPhone. Literally, there's still more to be done. Buhari saw a sugarcane hawker with an iPhone. In other words, the appearance of even a glimmer of prosperity in people activates Buhari's sadistic instincts. He betrays this every time he talks. These past few days have proved my claim. For example, the primary reason Buhari support or instigated the redesign of the Naira is that there are people who have money buried under the soil, according to his spokesman, who literally translated what he said in Hausa into English. He said most people will have a challenge with the Naira design policy. Just like his disastrous 1984 Naira redesign policy that was targeted at people he thought were undeservedly wealthy, but which ended up hurting poor people and doing nothing to the rich. This latest envy inspires sadistic targeting of the rich. We miss the intended prey and hit the poor hard again. And as India's 2016 experience with a somewhat similar policy called demonetization shows all that money buried under the soil that Buhari is worried about will return months after putting people through the hardship of returning their money to banks. In an insightful December 7, 2018 article titled What Happened After India Eliminated Cash, that I think every Nigerian should read deeper, Krishna gave a glimpse on what Nigeria should expect. And I think I really support I really see reasons with what Berogi is saying on this. In 2015 also, this same Buhari, he locked all this our, what is it called, ATM, that you cannot use the ATM abroad. People who ordinarily they don't even go to Aboki and all of that. They see okay we say the exchange rates, they will just use their card to do a lot of things. But Buhari scattered it. He locked the card. At the end of the day, the thing affected a lot of people. At the end of the day, the whole thing now made our naira to depreciate. At the end of you open it, and you're that the essence of doing that you cannot see. The same way he has a locked border, he wants people to be producing food here. Farmers cannot go to farm. People who are even managing to go are paying to bandits. Yet what is the essence of this border closure? It has not resolved anything. So I don't really understand when I say this kind of person with this kind of IQ. That's why this country, the problem we are having in this country wouldn't have degenerated to the level at which we are experiencing now. But because of his IQ, he's low. He's low. And you can see a professor working under such a person. It's disgusting. 2 years later, the dust has settled and it has become obvious that demonetization was not the resounding success of government expected it to be. Krishnan wrote, India's black money problem has not gone away. The economy has taken a beating. Huge financial losses have been incurred and the marginalized poor, least able to withstand adversity, have been negatively affected. In a country where the informal sector is way larger than the formal sector, where cash still rules, it's impossible to mop up all money buried under the soil. You may succeed for a moment, but it will go right back to the same spot later, so long as the structure of the economy remains the same. But more than anything, this policy is driven by Buhari's vulgar, sadistic envy for the wealthy and the prosperous. Yes. It is the same sadistic joy in the suffering of others that caused Buhari to tell a Kano-based Hausa TV station by the name of a Tabarin Hausa that people have no reason to complain of hunger if they don't want to go to the farm. I said that This, since we have farmland and God has blessed us with rain, what reason does a Nigeria have to say he's hungry? He said, if you are hungry, go to the farm. I am aware that floods have ravaged some farmlands this season, but we are still selling rice made in Nigeria and we can feed ourselves. Is that not an achievement? Never mind that insecurity has so enveloped the country that farming is no longer an option in many communities. His own children don't go to the farm, of course, and this is where his hypocrisy is really galling. Buhari disdain wealth only if it is possessed by others, while he fires personal aides and avoids friends who display opulence in their dressing and other material possessions. He doesn't mind it in himself, his children, and his close relatives. In 2016, a particularly acute dollar scarcity, which affected Nigerians who went to school abroad. Exactly. The BDC asked Buhari that his thoughts were, and he said, what was his thoughts? And he said people who couldn't afford to buy dollars at the black market rate shouldn't have their children going to school abroad. Okay, at that time, his own children were also in school in UK. So the BBC journalist reminded him of that and wondered if he too would withdraw his children since dollars were scarce, and he advised parents who couldn't find dollars to withdraw their kids. His face formed a frightening frown. He then said his children were in the UK because he could afford it, and tough luck to those who couldn't afford it. That interview succinctly captured the essential Buhari, who has chosen the UK as his second home, to the point that King Charles wondered if he had a home there. You see? How do you describe, in one word, how do you describe this kind of person? Wickedness. Wickedness and bitterness, and God will judge him with all this rubbish. If unless if he doesn't have sense, you can't tell me that somebody who is at that age does not have sense. He knows what is exactly what he's doing, and he has come to use this presidency to enrich himself, to enjoy himself, but he doesn't want the same thing to happen to Nigeria. Up till now, the man believes that people who are hungry, they don't want to go to farm, meaning they are lazy. That why should they be complaining of hunger? But he said buy Nigeria, grow Nigeria, buy Nigeria, but see what he's doing. And you don't even get sense. You don't get sense. So I'm hungry. You don't get sense to not say that they pull in leg, or you just want to use and take bobo, or say the man meant something different. Almost everybody, all Nigerians knew the meaning of that question the king asked him, but I'm sure is himself and his APC, because like people always say, people who join APC, you see their level of they think, of course they will be thinking alike like Buhari, but every meaning person, every sane person in the whole world knows the undertone of what the king was asking, and that's it. It's just unfortunate. Well, someone said that is a stupid interpretation. Why are hotels built? You think in Charles is stupid to reject inflow of funds? You are a dead fool. I tell you now, those are the people who be saying they talk, think like how many presidents are in the UK? Your God Buhari is an empty God who will lead you and your family to where you belong to. Wonder the APC defender. Of course, his stupidity is legendary. Illiteracy is worse than death. May Buhari never happen to this nation. Ami, oh, a big amen to that. So guys, leave your comment down there below and let's have your take.